This is Hot Mic.
Hot Mic.
On the networks of WDAY.
WDAY.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2 on a busy Tuesday morning, off and rolling. Steve Lockway, head coach at Minnesota State University Moorhead, will join us about a half hour. Dragons season opener Thursday night on the road at Northern Michigan. Pretty pumped to have our next guest on, who covers FCS football better than anybody. He is the man who gives out the Walter Payton Award. He gives out the Buck Buchanan, the Jerry Rice Award. He organizes that. Now he's got to get ready for Nashville, which is going to be fun. I think I first bugged him about 16 years ago when I heard that NDSU had a chance to make the playoffs, which is just quaint when you think about that, way back in 2010. Although when I texted him yesterday, I immediately regretted it because his Cincinnati Reds are going to pass the Mets any day for the final wild card spot. Craig Haley joins us, FCS Stats, who does an unbelievable job, and he does this every year. We preview the upcoming season. It's only a matter of days, right? The Reds are they have Terry Francona. They're going to pass the Mets, so we can let's just get it out of the way now.
Well, one of us will be packing it in soon.
That's a good way to put. Also, both of us can do a victory lap. We can spike the football because the Ivy League is in the playoffs. We've been doing this for 15 years, and finally we will have an Ivy League team in the postseason this year.
Yeah, but now we have a new storyline. Will the Ivy League increase its 10-game schedule to to try and get 2 teams into the field? So I didn't know if it would ever happen. I mean, people in football in the Ivy League have wanted it for decades, and it was the presidents holding everything back, and it was a push from the student athletes, and it got it over the top. The Ivy League is here.
How interested are you to watch this year? I am, because I always like watching especially on a Friday night. They have their own night for football on ESPNU. Will you pay more close attention to it now that they get entrance to the playoffs?
I think the average fan, for sure. I've been around the Ivy League for 50 years now, believe it or not. So I've always paid close attention. There have been years where the Ivy League had some teams that could make a run in the playoffs. I'd say since COVID, when they skipped the entire athletic season, they have taken a little bit of step back as a league. Their teams haven't been quite as strong, but I do think that'll reverse again, and they'll start to get stronger, eventually play tougher out-of-conference games.
I was going to ask you about that. Have you heard any momentum on that? If they are going to expand to 11 games and start playing, I mean, people out here, the Bison would love to play. Let's go. Home and home in Harvard. Make it happen.
I do know it'll be the next issue. I don't think they have any immediate plans. I think that's a huge hurdle with getting the presidents to switch there, because you'd almost have to start earlier than they do now, which is generally like the third Saturday of September, and they play consecutively. So if they start late and go 11 straight weeks without a bye, and then a team has a playoff game, they hope to have multiple teams. That's asking a lot. So I think that's a long way off. I'm just saying that's the next question that we'll all be asking.
Start batting the doors. Hey, it only took us 50 years to make it happen for this, so hopefully we can make the non-conference games happen a lot sooner. You missed out on Overreaction Monday yesterday, so here it's Overreaction Tuesday. You have anything from week 0 that you took away to say, okay, this is something maybe that opened your eyes from what the games you saw on Saturday?
I think UIW Incarnate Word's effort was inexcusable. To not be prepared for the Nichols defense. Their quarterback, Richard Torres, who's played well in the past, was not on target the other day for sure. You're a voter in the sport stats reform top 25 poll. I've been beating the drum on UIW since January. I had them number 3 on my ballot. They're number 5 in our preseason poll. Everybody got that wrong for sure.
Yep.
But again, I've really been out in front and saying this is the team, and boy, they just were not ready. That is the storyline of the weekend, how they just weren't even competitive. See,
I thought you were going to take my ballot away. You were going to say that because I voted him number 5 in the preseason poll. But yeah, that was stunning to see. I want to talk. We were visiting with Sam Herder about this yesterday, about the FCS kickoff game not finishing and how big a repercussion that can be, Craig, come November when Mercer and Davis only have 11 games on their resume, but yet they played. Like we have visual evidence that the game happened. How much do you think that could help or hurt in the committee room if it comes down to that?
I don't think it helps for sure. You're gonna have one fewer game, one fewer
Right.
quality game result. I think if it's close, a committee member could say, well, UC Davis was winning halfway through the fourth quarter. That's a positive they can say in the back of their mind. A Mercer, they could say, well, if it's close, then maybe you favor UC Davis. But if Mercer has a little bit of an edge, then you say, well, they made this nice run. They got real
Right.
close. Could have, won the game with one more touchdown. But again, in the grand scheme of things, no, it's not helpful because especially when you play teams that play the sub Division One opponents. Now UC Davis doesn't anymore, and Mercer has been at times. That you lose a game there that doesn't count on your resume. I just think yes, this is a big issue, and it's unfortunate, but it's not helpful at all.
I was enjoying the game Saturday, knowing full well this time next year, that week likely will be exclusive for the FCS, and I'm really interested how they take advantage of that because networks love football games, Greg, that ESPN or Fox come like North Dakota State's going to play Incarnate Word next year to open the season. If that's something, heck, they can play the Thursday prior, that they come and move those games because they want football on, that the FCS has a opportunity to own that before FBS football gets going.
And that was also the whole point behind the FCS kickoff back in 2014 when it got started with Eastern Washington and Sam Houston. Hey, this is the spotlight. Year two, let's make it a doubleheader. That never happened. There was great games early on, including the Bison, and some tussles with Charleston Southern and Montana.
Yep.
They never became an exclusive FCS. Now this opportunity, people are gonna reach out and want to watch it if you're just a casual fan. The hardcore fan is always going to be paying attention. So certainly a positive for the FCS. You're gonna have to worry about weather, just the heat, the humidity, storms. That'll be an issue when there's so many games going on and that early in the season. But again, it should be a way to draw even more focus to the
This also means we're going back to work a heck of a lot earlier because they're playing 12 games. We're going to be going back to work at the end of July to start out things. I want one last thing on week 0 before we move on to this week's games. We talked Tarleton as well. That's another program like Abilene that scared the heck out of South Dakota last year, won a playoff game. How are they more on your radar than maybe we should all pay attention to for what they did? They have an FBS game coming up this Friday with Army.
I think you've nailed it. I mean, I've gone from, not really even considering them to beat Army to seeing their performance last week against Portland State, 42-0. I give them a shot. In fact, I've done a top 10 ranking that I'm putting out today of FCS possibilities this weekend. I think I put them number 3 where they weren't even close to number 3 before today. You have that one fewer day, going from Saturday to the following Friday. You're going from Portland
coast to coast,
West Point, with a stop back home. They're going to be a tired team, but they answered a lot that they could replace some of their offensive firepower. So, and Victor Gavel is having an experienced quarterback. They certainly caught people's attention, with this performance they had.
The game Saturday, I think we're all looking at Sac State, South Dakota State, just for the great unknown on each roster. What intrigues you about that matchup on Saturday night?
Well, I do think if I'm South Dakota State, I try and win it in the trenches, which, has been a difference maker against a school at a conference like a Sac State. I think Sac State, I think their lesson is to take a lesson from UIW, which had a lot of transfers. This Sac State has the most transfers out of everybody in the FCS, over 50, including a lot of FBS drop down. Now their talent is great, including at running back, but they have to gel. I think that's the lesson from UIW. Hey, we can't fool around. We're playing a South Dakota State. They have very good running backs. I give them a shot for that reason, but I do think the Jackrabbits just, really try and win in the trenches. Chase Mason will not be rattled at all.
I have to ask for the following week, the game in Bozeman with Montana State, South Dakota State. How big is that in your mind for the playoff committee to determine Granted, they still have all their conference games to come, but when you have two heavyweights playing each other in a non-conference, how that can affect playoff seeding when we get to Thanksgiving.
I've seen the committee get better in recent years, and really look at strength of schedule. And I think, yes, that's the game you circle out of all the non-conference games as being the best one. I think Montana State has a clear advantage being home for this game next, week from this Saturday. But yes, I think you don't forget that one, however it works out. And I think it'll go a long way. You can forgive, you might have an extra loss in conference than some of the other teams not in the Missouri Valley or Big Sky, but a committee member knows what you're playing week to week in conference, how strong it is. So that kind of game, that's as good as an FBS win, to be honest with you.
I have to ask, in your own backyard, to bury the CAA, what in the world are they doing? I mean, 10 years ago, you and I were talking of this. They were the SEC of the FCS, for the Valley got its legs underneath them. I mean, with James Madison, with Delaware, with New Hampshire, Richmond, Villanova, they were winning national championships. They're all gone, and they're leaving in the next couple of years. And what they've added is not quality. I just, on the eastern side of the United States, and FCS football leaves a lot to be desired, in my opinion, right now.
It's true. And the old guard, if you will, of the CAA, the ones that are, leaving and have left, are not happy with some of the additions. The league has gotten, got too big at 16, perhaps. And the new programs that came in, a Campbell, North Carolina A&T, a Hampton, even a Monmouth to some degree, haven't gotten over the top within the conference in these first few years in the conference. I think that has irked, Villanova and William Mary will be leaving next year. Richmond left for the Patriot League this year. You lose Delaware, you lose James Madison. Those are the blue bloods of that league that just you can't really overcome. Especially the James Madison hit has been as bad as any out there in recent years. So again, I think they have to rally around, what they have now and try and figure out how they can get stronger. But the new schools have not done well since they've moved in.
Well, now the Patriot League becomes way more appealing, at least to me. I'm sure to you as well, with the schools they added. Like, all right, the Patriot League they were already good in football. They've certainly gotten more serious about football with who they added.
They've had a couple years where they've had an at-large bid in addition to the automatic qualifier, two teams. There's no reason in the world that starting next year they shouldn't have two every year. When you add a William & Mary and a Villanova, Richmond is certainly in the mix this year to win the league. You have Lehigh coming back with just about everybody. They're going to be tremendous. So they have a shot for two bids this year. I'm just saying next year it should even be for certain.
Couple minutes left here with Craig. You were on the conference call last week with the NCAA about Nashville and welcoming in the FCS. Give me your initial impression of that, and what are your either concerns or questions about Nashville now being the site for the FCS championship game?
Dom, I think a lot of people were just looking for something different, and it would have been in Frisco if they weren't renovating, FC Dallas Stadium or Toyota Stadium.
It's had 9 names. That's okay. We went from Pizza Hut Park to Toyota Stadium in the 10, 15 years we've been down there. Sorry, go ahead.
I think the stadium size is right. About 35,000 for Vanderbilt Stadium, First Bank Stadium, and you get the right two teams, they probably will fill it, but it'll certainly won't be more than 18, 19,000 regardless. So I think that's probably the right size stadium. It sounds like they're bringing back the Fan Fest, which is kind of a nice event around. You don't want to just have a game and nothing else. That'll be an addition. I think there's so much to do in Nashville. That'll, make fans happy, the nightlife. I think, they want Nashville Sports Council wants to take it beyond these 2 years. So they're going to do a slam dunk job, I would think, the next 2 years. So I think it's going to be a great thing. And at the same time, Frisco was good to the FCS.
I asked the guy who runs the Nashville Sports Committee about trying to keep this, and he was emphatic in that answer when I asked him about, we want this beyond 2027, which perked my ears up. I think you're right, and they have hosted other big events. They were talking about, I looked at the Opryland Convention Center for where the two teams are going to be with a indoor water park. There's two separate entrances for the hotel. I mean, that alone, if there's one central location, if there's anything we know about football teams, they want to be in a spot, easy to get in, easy to get out, that was appealing to me, Craig. Like, okay, this might be something to take even more serious than beyond 2027.
Well, I think the Sports Council is probably rooting for the Bison.
No, there's no doubt. Yep, there's no
with the way
doubt.
the Bison travel. They won't tell you that.
Nope. No.
but I'm sure that's in the back of their mind.
Last thing before I let you go, you had a chance to interview Tim Polasek on your podcast. Give me your impressions of that. Did you find out anything you didn't know about the Bison head coach?
Well, Tim, Coach Polasek's awesome. He gave me something that I didn't realize, and I've worked on it ever since. A story, the middle eights, he calls it.
Yep.
The final 4 minutes of the first half, the first 4 minutes of the second half. Turns out they were number one in point differential in the FCS last year. 2 years ago, South Dakota State was number one in that category. I've since found that out with a little research. It just shows you how big of a difference maker the end of the first half, the beginning of the second half can be for a team in the FCS. Actually, I looked at the top 22 teams in point differential in the middle eights last year. 18 had winning records.
Oof.
2 were 500. It's a story I've just finished writing. I'm going to put it out later today. That's something I learned from Coach Polasek.
That's a good nerd stat there. You also got into his time as a lumberjack. How informative was that?
That's a favorite here. I mean, to learn that I learned that through Jeff Kolpak's book, and it's been written about as well, and you've talked about it. I find that fascinating. I mean, you just learn a blue collar ethic, and it just shows in the way the Bison, they don't rest on their laurels. They go on to the next thing, and they do it right.
It's great to see you, bud. Have a great year. We'll catch up as the season goes along, and more luck to the Mets and the Reds is all I'm going to tell you, okay?
Good luck to the Mets, too.
Good to see you, bud. There he goes. Craig Haley joining us to get us ready for the 2025 FCS season. FCS Stats will be obviously putting out the poll each and every Monday. I've been fortunate to be a voter on that with Craig since 2011, 2012. And we'll put that out each and every week, and we'll get him on later on in the season once we start seeing where things are developing. But a lot of questions surrounding a lot of these teams. We think they're going to be good. We just don't know in 2025. We're overdue for a break. We'll caught up here. We got a few emails to get to. Steve Lockway will join us at 10:35 in anticipation of the Dragon opener on Thursday night. Back on Hot Mic on a beautiful Tuesday after this.